Hey guys, Marsinged here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so the maintenance is over on global and the update and everything is in place. We have the information for the release time and date for the Gohan banner, which as expected is tomorrow morning at the seemingly new regular time. I think it's been enough banners now that we can safely say going forward that this is the banner release time for the future indefinitely, outside of special events and celebrations where sometimes the time does change slightly. But the banner will be out tomorrow at 5 AM UK time. So this video will be going up probably by about 9 AM UK time. So if you're watching this as soon as it goes up, the banner is essentially going to be out in like 20 hours. So I will be live when the banner comes out to do some summons. But yeah, we'll go over the data download stuff here. We've got some very interesting information, including something that was included in the JP data download, but not the global one, which I assume will just be added in at a later date. Obviously now with the release schedules being synced, there is no reason to believe that this thing isn't going to come to global. And it's just a case of it not being included in this data download. And global will probably get another one closer to the time. So we have the update 5.24.0. Nothing major in this. It's just listed as adjusted the user interface and fixed some bugs. I don't know if this means that they've added in the turns as a giant form counter that we saw in the data from the previous update for JP. As we say this, I've loaded up the game and gone in after the maintenance, and I'm jumping into a run. And there is nothing new on the character. Like when you bring up that menu that shows the number of times you've dodged and attacked and all that stuff, there is nothing new on that yet. Fix some bugs. There's a bunch of like entries for some of the updates for those things where they were fixing certain characters' passives and changing effects of like when ally whose name includes X is on the team. Basically just some bits in the news to confirm that that is all done now. So each of those things, and the one for the maintenance itself as well, came with a few stones. So I think on collection from logging in, it includes the 3 from my daily capsule thing. We've got like 18 stones when logging in today. So a few extra stones there to go towards the next banner you're going to summon on, which is nice. Then we also have the next update for the 10th anniversary coin collecting campaign. So part 3 of the campaign starting soon, and more anniversary characters are going to be mega buffed, like the year 3 fusions and the year 4 Super Saiyan 4s, and it's going to be the year 5 Gogeta and Vegito, and then also the old worldwide celebration, the AGL Gohan and INT Perfect Cell. So these guys definitely going to be very interesting and very fun to use again. We saw how crazy the Super Saiyan 4s and the fusions were with their buff, and I mean in some cases mainly because of like the dodge in slot 3 and then like the automatic dodge on the turn they transform. In some cases, like the year 5 fusions are still kind of usable. So like imagine using them now. Well, I say not right now, of course, because the buff hasn't happened yet, but imagine using them now on some of these big teams they're on, but with these mega buffs. So that's definitely going to be very, very interesting. And they remain strengthened until mid-January 2025. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how good the blue fusions are going to be post buff. So then we have the schedule, as I talked about. So this is the schedule for the banners. You can see here, like I say, the Boo and Supreme Kai out in 20 hours time. Then we have the LR Anilaza, the new Battlefield LR. This guy's coming out on the same day, but a few hours later when we get the Battlefield reset. So this is the new Battlefield LR Ultimate Colossal Fighter of Universe 3 Anilaza. Now remember that this guy, as a Battlefield LR, if you do decide to pick him up, you are only going to be able to get the 1 copy of him. But he is a super bosses leader for 3 key and 130% to stats. And then his super attacks, the 12 key greatly raised defense for 1 turn does colossal damage. And then the 18 key greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, mega colossal damage, and raises extreme class allies defense by 30% for 1 turn. Thing about what these like 1 turn buffs is that, like, if he's not going to be a slot 1 unit, then obviously this loses a lot of its value, right? So we'll take a look at his passive here. So trump card of universe 3. So he has an entrance animation. He gets 3 key and attack and defense 130 and has a scouter for 3 turns from his entry turn when there's another final trump card or super boss's ally on the team on his entry turn. So they only have to be on the team, so that's good. And then, yeah, 3 key, extra stats, and a scouter for 3 turns. Then his base passive is 3 key and 130 to stats. Additional 3 key and damage reduction of 30% when HP is 30% or more at the start of the turn. Randomly change key spheres of a certain type that are not STR to STR. Gets an additional attack with a high chance to become a super with 3 or more STR orbs. Additional super attack guaranteed with 5 or more STR orbs. Then an additional attack and defense 130 and reduced damage received by 30% as the first attacker in the turn. Gets an additional attack and defense 30% when performing a super. High chance of launching an additional super and attacks effective against all types as the second or third attacker. So if he's in slot 1, he gets extra defense and damage reduction. But usually, again, with the way these passives are worded, as the first attacker in the turn, I don't know if it's one of those things where Global, I think I've heard Minato talk about it before, where Global has a different wording for no reason. If it's like as the unit in slot 1, like, and it activates as soon as you've locked in your rotation, then obviously this is good, right? Because if you started the turn at 30% or more HP, he also has 60% damage reduction, like in total, as well as getting these extra stats. But if it's when he attacks, like as the first attacker in the turn, it means any attacks he takes before he attacks, he doesn't get this extra buff. And as like a free-to-play unit who, as we said, you're only going to have at 55% at first, definitely not like a great idea for like a slot 1 unit with those kind of stats that he's going to have start of turn, which is a little bit unfortunate. His 200% leaders are literally just Zamasu and Topo, so that's interesting. He does have an active skill, ultimate damage to the enemy, key 24, and attack and defense 30% for 1 turn, which can be activated when there's a tournament participant's enemy starting from the 3rd turn or just starting from the 5th turn. So I mean, not terrible, but tournament participants enemy, I mean, I guess for things like the Universe Survival Saga Blue Zone, that's fine. But it's weird that they release these characters, like, obviously for JP. Global, we still don't have the last stages, but for JP, like, the Universe Survival Saga Blue Zone is old news, and we're all kind of waiting on the next most difficult set of content. And if that isn't against tournament participant enemies, then it feels like this guy potentially released, like, a little bit late. Which is unfortunate, but he seems okay. Like I say, the worst part about him is going to be this as the first attacker in the turn, depending on when that activates. But he seems relatively good. But yeah, the one thing that we saw from the JP side is you can see here the JP schedule. We have, and it was announced on Twitter, the INT Ultimate Gohan is getting the Super EZA. And he's getting his on the 3rd of December. So obviously that's still going to be a good few days away, which means that Global will need another data download between now and then. Like I said, there's no reason to believe that we won't get one, and we're just not getting him on Global for some reason. Doesn't really make a lot of sense for that to be the case. But they did actually reveal it on Twitter this morning. I believe this was around the time that the data download was on JP. So fortunately for me, I plan to wake up and make this video when the maintenance and data download was finished on Global. So obviously there's been time for somebody to post the translation, so shout out to Minato. But yeah, in Ultimate Gohan Super EZA, 158% defense, attack and defense, key 5 and attack and defense 100% when key is 7 or more. Now those are like the attacker things, those are checked for when he attacks. But obviously super useful because as a TUR, it means you only have to get like 7 key and then he gets the extra 5, right? So in any of these events or like burst modes and all that kind of stuff where you can have your key lowered, like there are some Blue Zone bosses that do that as well. It's going to be easier for him to get his super, which is good. Then he gets attack and defense 100% when performing a super, launches an additional super attack and has a medium chance to crit when all allies are super class. So that's good, guaranteed extra super. One of the things we talked about in the video yesterday when I talked about who could EZA in this celebration. Remember, super EZAs don't change the super attack effects for these characters, but in Ultimate Gohan has infinite attack stacking on his super. So him having a way to get an additional super is really good because then you can get that stacking going. So guards all attacks and has a medium chance to dodge as the 2nd or 3rd attacker in the turn. So yeah, I mean, so far from what we've seen in his kit, there's no reason to be putting this guy in slot 1. So guaranteed guard in slot 2 or 3 with also 30% chance to dodge to back it up. And then obviously if you're not, as long as you're not doing any events with any kind of AoE, he'll have already attacked, so he'll have gotten all those extra stats. Defense 30% up to 120, and chance to crit and chance to evade 10% up to 40 with each super attack performed. So once he's performed 4 supers, he gets an extra 120% defense, 40% dodge chance and 40% crit chance, which means he'll go up to, if he's in slot 2 or 3, he's got a 70% chance to dodge whilst also guarding, getting an extra 120% defense, which all of that adds up to his start of turn, and then he gets 100% when performing a super. So obviously I'd need to see the numbers, but like this guy potentially is going to have, when he's fully built up, quite high raw defense after he supers, and then guard and 70% chance to dodge, which is pretty crazy. Attack and defense 30% plus an additional 28% to allies when there's an extreme class enemy. So he seems very, very good. Obviously once he's built up and then like post super, his defense is going to be super high, he's going to be guarding, he's going to be dodging, and then against extreme class enemies he's providing a ton of support. So the interesting thing about him is he seems like the kind of unit that, for the super class Majin Buu Saga team especially, he's going to be really, really good as like a floating unit. It always feels a bit awkward when you have to float like stacking units, but he does have that like built-in additional super attack if you're running a super class team. And you want him to get the 4 supers as early as possible. So it's one of those things where, depending on your team build and who you've got and what rotations you want to set up, it might be more valuable to like keep him on rotation on his like first turn. So then he comes back 2 turns later, you get the extra 2 supers, then at that point he's fully built up by the end of that turn. There could be awkward situations where, like, if you are wanting to use him as a slot 3 floating unit to support, he ends up not being able to get supers off because the enemy dies before he gets to attack as you get further into the event and you're going through the different phases. But I mean, he definitely has incredibly good potential. Like I say, I need to see calcs, but like once he's fully built up, that start of turn defense is going to be pretty good. Then it doubles when he performs a super. He's stacking attack, so he has the potential to be really, really good. And yeah, he comes out on the 3rd. So that is the main set of info from the data download. Obviously very exciting for the 5th year LR, anniversary LRs and the Cell and Gohan to be getting that mega buff. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I will be live tomorrow for the summons for Buhan. I'll have a video dropping later talking about him, banner predictions and all that stuff in the summon or skip video. But let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.